I want to welcome you to our session here with Jerry and Hank Belisle. I'm Harold Rivard. Jerry is going to tell us about things that happened in town, and Hank is going to tell us some things that happened along in other things, I guess, prohibition and things. And Jerry had many jobs around town. I was asking what he did, and he named about 5 jobs, and then he said he graduated from high school. He worked with people like Bud Heck. He worked at the Terrace as a dishwasher, the Palms, cooked the frog legs that Earl Heck caught, and worked at White Castle, went into service, and then came out, went back into service, and worked at Anderson's, started his own cafe, and then went back to work at Anderson's. Meat cutter, so he's been on a lot of businesses here in town. So with that, Jerry, you want to start? What he'll be doing is telling about some of the buildings that used to be in town.
Well, I'm going to cover Somerset about like 1930, what businesses, places we had, the residents, and I'll go right down the line. This is Main Street now, just beyond here, but Main Street ran the other way, from LaGranger's down to down that way anyhow. And so on Main Street, the first place I'm going to talk about is LaGranger's. They had the red and white grocery store, and they didn't have the push carts there either. You had the clerks used to pick up the whatever you wanted. There wasn't that much to buy either. Everything was bulk. And that was Ann Lesky, and Oscar Graff was the butcher. At one time I did work with him in the butcher shop. That was one of my jobs. And then next to the LaGrangers we had the post office. And I think at one time Alice LaGranger was the postmistress, and then Bill Shay took it over after that. Is that right, Marvin?
Yeah.
He took it from Alice LaGranger.
Actually, Henry owned the
Bill's
post office.
Well, he owned everything.
Alice was working for him.
Yeah. And then we had next door to that was Parnell's Meat Market, and he had a butcher shop there with some canned goods, but nothing, no fresh groceries or fresh produce or anything like that. And then next door to that was a Finef drug store. I'm going down Main Street, the old Main Street, the drug store, and then there was another little kind of a nightclub next door. I don't remember what they called it, like the gay 90s anyhow. And then we had Mrs. Rondo. She had a kind of a boarding house, mostly for school teachers, I think, at that time. And Mr. Rondo was a rural route mail carrier. And I remember he had an old Model T or Model A, and in the wintertime he'd take the front wheels off and put skis on. And so then we go to next door. There was a home, and it was Paul Belisle's that lived there. And then we went to the next place is the bank, and that was Henry LaGranger's also. But we had Ella Klucher as a cashier and Stella Campbell. I don't know if anybody knows them. And then we had Joe Campbell's home next to the bank. And then the next house was Desir Paquette. And he had a son, Mabel, that ran a grocery store. I'll talk about that later. And then the next house was Ben Campo, who was living in one part of the house. And he had a little, I don't know, a little moonshine bar or beer or something. And then Zeno Harvey lived in the next apartment, next part of that. And then we came to the road that went down to the old bridge. And that old bridge was also our swimming hole. And so then on the other side of that little road, we had Joe Rivard's home. And then next to that was Helmer Olson with the ice house. He used to make ice, and he had a big warehouse. Put a layer of ice down, a layer of sawdust, and another layer of ice. I don't remember how many 100-pound pieces of ice he had in there. And then on the corner, coming back now, on the corner where Earl dealt, I think you'd all know where he used to live. there was a little gas station run by Ernest Belisle. And he had one pump there that was for gas. And then inside you could buy kerosene or oil or candy bars. And then there was a little, at that house that Earl, I'm talking about, Earl Hills had, that was a little cafe at one time. It was a wooden shoe. And you could buy a hamburger in there for a nickel or a bottle of pop, 5 cents. And that was run by, I don't remember, Phil was the cook anyhow. And then C.J. Mumsey had the grocery store in there after that. And then next door to the grocery store, we had Edmond Bryan's residence. And Edmond Bryan took over as the mail carrier from Mr. Rondo. And I don't know how many years he did that. And then Albert Germain's was next to Edmond Bryan's. And then there was another little house, and I think it was Al Fish owned it, and I think he built it, and he also had the garage next to it, and the garage is tore down now. It's right across from the town hall, or village hall, excuse me. And then we had that little building that used to be the village hall. That was a grocery store also that was run by a Mabel Paucan. And then there was a shoe shop after that, and then the village finally took it over. And then we had Vanoss's home was next to that, and then Mr. Vanoss had that big building. The building is still up, and he had the meats and groceries and dry goods, and he was also the undertaker. And then upstairs they had movies and wedding dances, I guess it was about that. Then next door to Vanoss's was a restaurant, and Paul Belisle owned it at one time. Then he passed that on to Art Morissette. Art Morissette passed it on to Kenny Wirt, and then Morris has finally bought it, Morris Lemire. And then we go into the Rendezvous, and there was a barber shop there, and there was rooms upstairs. And Henry Cook had the barber shop, and he passed that on to Ray Parnell, and then Ray Parnell had Ed Lemire working for him. Finally sold it to Ed Lemire, and then Ed Lemire moved in with Morris's Cafe next door. And then on the corner, we had the gas station and the garage that Jacklin owned, John Jacklin. And then going up this street here, this main street now, was Mill Street then, we had a clothing store, and that was just a front for bootlegging and stuff like that. And in the back they had the bootlegging and gambling and shooting and whatever you want to call it. And then we had the hardware. At one time, I remember when it was run by a Rivard. I think it's Felix Rivard's dad. And then they sold out to Plord. They sold implements, and they started with implements. They had a big warehouse full of implements, and eventually they ran out. They just got down to regular little hardware. And then next door to the hardware, Lyle Liberty built, I think there's an old drugstore that burnt there. There was a drugstore that burnt there anyhow. And Lyle Liberty built it up anyhow. But, and then Gus Belisle took it over and he started a cafe. And then Jack Raleigh bought that from Gus Belisle, because Gus Belisle went up and started the Palms. You all heard of the Palms. And then Jack Raleigh went over to bought the River's Edge. And of course, Jerry Belisle bought that from Jack Raleigh. And I ran that from 1957 to 1963. And I sold that cafe to Mrs. McKeever. And then she ran it a few years, and then she sold that to the Shirt Shack. And then I don't know what it's in there now. And then Willie Belisle was next door. He had a home there, and then he ran that garage which is the beauty salon now, and what's in a toy shop in the back. And then Bill sold that to somebody, Bill, and he built a little garage in the back of his home. And then the next door was, well, it's Anne's Cafe now, but I remember when there was a newspaper, they printed newspapers there, and they sold out and went to Osceola, excuse me. And then telephone office came in there, and then a lot of eating places, I mean, from person to person. And I remember one time, Harry Dell's owned it at one time. He called it Home Plate. He was quite the baseball player, so he called it Home Plate. And then next to Anne's Cafe is where Hank and I were born. And then next door to our place is right straight down from this road. And you run into it if you keep going. Then the Montpetits lived next door. That's Archie Montpetit and his family. And then Narth Farnell, he had something to do with the bank at one time, and then he sold insurance. And then Delore Roy's lived up on a hill across from the post office. And then Oscar Graff lived in the house next door to Roy's. And then John Liberty's had a farm there that'd be across from the town, the old town hall. That was a farm, and John Liberty had that. Now the 7-Up built a building there, and they have the tavern.
You see, Liberty had a cement block factory in there?
Oh, yeah. And then on the other side of the 7-Up, where the 7-Up plant or the liquor place is, that was there was a little block building there, and Lyle Liberty built that, and he was making cement blocks there for a while. Then he sold that. That's one of my other places I worked at. He sold that to Irvin Shampoo, Kenny Sutherland, and I, and we started a cabinet shop there. Well, Kenny and I had other jobs, so Irvin didn't want to work alone, and we could help him on Saturdays, and of course we didn't feel like it on a Saturday, so we sold that to I can't think of the guy's name, but he started a filling station there, gas station.
Turnbull.
Turnbull. Yeah, Turnbull.
Good think of it.
Yeah.
Clyde.
And so he started a filling station there, and then that was going pretty good. So John Jackman sold that place on the corner to the Rendezvous, and he built a filling station across the street from there. And then coming this way, we had the feed mill that Frenchy Poyer, the feed mill used to be here, and or next door. And then Frenchy Poyer, Bonprees had that at that one time, and Frenchy Poyer bought that from him, and then Frenchy built that place up there now. And then we got the old town hall, which is being remodeled, and then we had another place where the Palms was, and that Lizzie Lemire had that at one time, and she had a bed and breakfast, or kind of course, had to do with bootlegging again. And that's the one that Gus Belisle bought then, and he built the Palms there. And then the Palms, Fred LaGranger and Ben Bro bought that from Gus. They ran it for a while, and Marcel Bro, Ben's brother, took over, and they had a big fire there, and it burnt the place down. And so then Andy Vanos bought that, and he started a laundromat there. And then that wasn't too good of an idea, I guess. The floaters would come down all soaked with mud, they'd have these mud fights, and they'd come there and try do the laundry and plug up all the machines and that. So he had a chance to get the post office in there, and he got the post office. That's where our post office is today. And then a family home was next door, the Andrew Rivards. And then next to that was a house that Gus Belisle built. And he had it a few years, and then he sold that to Ben Bro. And so then we had next door to that, that'd be right on this corner here, is Henry Heck's. And Mrs. Heck was working out, she was a working fool. And she had boarders in there, room and board, and she helped out everybody else. And then we had Harview's, who would be right here where that pizza house is, their home. And then next door to that was the central office, telephone office. And then next door was a home that William Klucher had, and he was the one that had the rendezvous at 1930, I'm talking about. That Bill Klucher. And then he sold it to Klucher and Pyatt, I guess, and came right on, Oral finally ended up with it, and he sold it to, he sold it anyhow. And then across there, just next door to William Klucher's is Jake Harvey had the barber shop there. And then the barber shop, he also repaired shoes. And then he had another little corner where Phil Barnell had a jewelry shop. So, and then we had a blacksmith shop next to Jake Harview's, and that burnt down in our days. Remember that? And then they had Archie's Tavern, which is, the building is still there, but it's under a different name. And then we had George Belisle on the corner, and he had a bakery. And later on, he had a restaurant and beer joint, I guess, and ice cream parlor. And then across from George Belisle was Shay's Hotel. And then on the end of the building, am I right, there was a little jail there?
There's a jail on the
Yeah.
Earl Woodruff along and bet the wars for the windows.
And then what was it, farmland then down there?
Huh?
Was it the farmland? Was there cattle down below, just beyond your place?
Oh, no, well, we had the pasture there.
Yeah.
And then the creamery
Yeah.
over the back there.
And then that new bridge was built in 1933.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I'm going to talk about, and I'll pass this on back to Harry again.
I don't relate to, I'm a lot younger than he is, but I can relate to Dr. Faneff. I wasn't very old, but one of the brothers said, stick your finger in there, and I did it, and it smashed it, and Lloyd Rondo worked for us, and he jumped on the horse, took me down to Harry Leverty, and we got in Model A and came down to Dr. Faneff, and he sold it up. Okay, let's go on to Hank.
Well, my story is not going to be as long as Gerald's, and I never thought he was as old as he is. I was gone when I was 7 years old. I was gone for 10 years, and I came back in 1940, about 38. And I was about 15 years old. And my first job was to work for Archie's. Warren and I, or Earl and I, would take care of the bar while Archie went to church on Sunday morning. And then I kind of graduated as bartending when I was about 15, 16 years old. Then on weekends, I'd take care of the slot machines in the back and give change. And 90% of the customers were from Minnesota that people come down on Friday, going to their cabins, and they'd spend a little time there on Friday night, and then on Sunday they come back early and back to the machines. So my job was to go there and in the back on Saturday and Sunday and watch to see that they're not going to slug the machines and give change. And there used to be a lot of people come down with the car tokens. Now they'd fit in the dime machine, and slugs, of course, went into the nickel machines. And when they'd count the money on a Sunday night, there'd be slugs in there, and Archie would take the slugs and throw in the back bar, way up, and they'd go behind the back bar. And eventually he bought a new bar, and this was over a period of years, that he must have had at least 1/4 of a bushel of slugs in there. The streetcar tokens, I don't know what he did with. I'm sure he didn't throw them back there. Now Sunday was payday. We all got paid, the bartenders, the waitresses, and 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning we'd go to Morris Lemire's and have a little bite to eat, and then they had a back room where we played cards. And we'd play till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning sometime. Now, this particular Sunday, we went to eat, then we went in the back room and played, and Mary Lou Bro, she used to like to gamble. She'd come back and sit with us and play cards. And we were playing cards that time, and Mary Lou left about 5 o'clock in the morning to go home. And she used to live, she and Dave Bro used to live across the street in the terrace. And when she was going home, she glanced at the terrace, and here there's a big truck there and a big black car, she said, with wheels on both sides. At that time it was a Roadmaster Buick. They had big Roadmaster Buicks, and so she turned around. She had a LaSalle. She drove a LaSalle convertible. I'll never forget that. So she came back, and all the way we heard screeching tires, and she comes in and says they're hijacking the terrace. So Harry Delts was playing cards with us too. So Harry said, come on, Hank and Walter, and come on with me. So we jumped in his car, and he lived across from the Palms, and he comes out with 3 rifles. He gives one to me and one to Walter. And I was so scared, and Walter, I'm sure, was the same. He said, we're going to go towards Stillwater and cut off on the Alley Parnell Road. And he said, we'll probably meet the hijackers there. So we were going down the road, and here it was foggy. The fog was just lifting a little bit. And Harry said, there they are. So he stopped the car. He says, you guys get in the ditch. If they start shooting, you shoot back. And Harry gets right out. That guy wasn't afraid of anything. He got right out in the middle of the road and was pointing that rifle at that car. And here we hear a voice, don't shoot. This is Frenchie Poirier. Frenchie had a big Roadmaster Buick, the same thing, right? Tires on both sides. So he said, well, then we got back in the car and we scoured the county, you know, around the town to find out, but we never did find them. So that was one of the incidents I remember. And another time, I was bartending at Archie's then, and Archie was always there from morning till night. And here he gets a call from somebody up north that said that there was somebody that drilled the machines and to watch out for them. So what they do, they drill all the reels, and they could stop the reels anytime they wanted to for the jackpot. So Archie got a hold of Russell Parnell and Earl Heck. He called him in, he told him to sit in the booth and have a drink. He said, maybe this guy will stop in and we'll. So then, sure enough, this guy comes in, sits at the bar, and orders a drink. I serve him a drink, and he asked for a roll of quarters and a couple of rolls of coins anyway. And he went in the back, and Archie had called Leon Vanas. Leon used to fix the machines. Something went wrong with the machines, he'd fix them. So he came in, and the guy was back playing the machine, so Archie told Leon, you go back there and see if he's drilling, you know, to find just nonchalant. So here he goes, Leon goes in the back room where the machines were. He had about 13 slot machines back there. And Leon catches him with the drill. He had a little drill up his sleeve and was drilling the machine. And he said, Leon said, what are you doing there? And the guy, at that time there was no ashtrays. It was all spittoons on the floor. If you dropped your cigarettes in there, or a lot of people chewed, and they'd get rid of it in there. This guy picks up a spittoon and hits Leon, knocks him out, Leon Vanas. Then he started running out the door, and of course the 2 guys, Earl Heck and Russell Parnell, caught him. And they pushed him around a little bit and called the sheriff in Hudson. And he came down and picked him up. shortly after that, the machine, well, I don't know if they were actually legal. They had them in the back room, but everybody had them to Richmond. And, but then I don't know if it was a new governor or a new sheriff that was elected or something, but he outlawed all the machines. So everybody had to take them down and no more gambling. But then I went to work at the Palms then. And we rented a house, in fact, where Virginia used to live, in Omer. Remember that? That house, the Palms bought it. The owners of the Palms bought it. So they put up the machines in there. We had about 10 or 12 machines and boarded up the windows. And of course, I was there to give change again. That was my job. So it was all Minnesota people. I used to sit in my car, and then if I see a Wisconsin car come in at the Palms to go and eat, I'd follow them in and tell the waitress. If they asked about the machines, tell them no, you know. But there was very few. It was all Minnesota cars. People from Minneapolis, St. Paul. That was they come down to gamble. That was like people going to the casinos now in the cities. So then people would ask the waitress, and of course the waitress would send somebody out that these people want to play a machine, so I'd take them back there. This particular time is Sunday. I had about 5 or 6 people maybe in there playing the slot machines, and they were playing all night long till I think the last ones left about 5 or 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And it was just starting to get light. But I was pretty careful when I left there to make sure that there's nobody waiting for me. And in the back of the Palms, there was about 2 acres of land that was vacant. There was all weeds, up on waist-high weeds. So as I opened the door and I could see those weeds going down, and somebody was crawling away. And in the back road, I saw a car there parked. So I got in my car and I drove around. I got the license number and make of the car. And I went and I woke up my boss. And I told him what happened. So he said, well, let's go to Hudson. He says, usually the feds, if it's the feds, they stay at the hotel in Hudson. So we drove to Hudson. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning by that time. So sure enough, that car was parked there. So we came back and pulled the machines down and hid them in the country at some farmhouse. Took them all down and I spread sand and made believe that nobody was ever there. So we went and told the terrorist that, that would happen. And the spider said, oh, she said, they won't come here. She said, at that time, the terrorists, they had he built a building on another property, not too far from the terrace. And in other words, if he did get caught, they couldn't pin the terrace or anything. But anyway, we waited. It was a Monday night. And sure enough, a big truck comes in the car. And they walked in at Palms and wanted to see that house in the back. So Fred LaGranger was running the Palms in. So he took them back there, and he says as soon as he opened the door and they went in, he says their eyes were as big as silver dollars. But at the same time, they were at the terrace and they hijacked. They took everything that the terrace had. We had crap tables, blackjack tables, slot machines. They confiscated the whole thing. And that was in Marcel Bro's name. So they arrested Marcel Bro, and of course they give him a fine, that was it. Today, if that would happen, they'd lock you up, So that was the end of gambling. There was no more machines or no more gambling. That was the end of it. So then I moved to St. Paul then. So that's it.
Do you have any questions you'd like to ask either of them?
When did gambling go out?
When did gambling go out? What year was that about?
About 1948.
1948.
Because I remember taking a couple pennies from home and going down to Lynn's Cafe, or it was Josie's then, I guess, and gambling to get 10 cents so I could go to the football game.
Yeah, because I remember I had my boss thought I was doing a pretty good job, so the cars
Gary,
were hard to
Gary.
get then. And he put down $500 for the car, my car. And that was in 1947. So it was shortly after that, 1948, I'd say that the gambling went out then, the slot machines, yeah.
Before that.
We had a person ask about a tunnel. Was there a tunnel between the Palms and the next house? Not that you know of?
They had to come, the ones that wanted to gamble would come through the kitchen at the Palms and then out the door and right around into that house. And that house was adjoining, was right next to the, there was no tunnel.
No tunnel. That refutes the last people.
Yeah, well, I know that at one time they had said there were doors that were down there that were closed up. The Cedric Adams used to come to the Palms a lot of times on Sunday.
Who did?
Cedric Adams.
Cedric Adams.
Probably did, I don't
Yes,
remember
he
that
did,
though.
yeah.
No. I had a lot of, the regular customers that used to come from the cities, I knew a lot of them that would come down and they play, just like they do at the casinos in the cities. They were gamblers, but there was no, Palms, they, at that time, well, maybe years ago when they had the machines in, when it was legalized, they had them in the Palms. But then when they took the gambling away, then you had to sneak it there. There used to be quite a spot there one time.
Oh, boy, was it ever.
That was a nightclub, and Mary Lou is a blues singer.
Yeah.
She sang,
Butcher, do you remember old man Butcher?
who?
Butcher? He was an old man, he and his wife were there, you know, and she says a good man is hard to find,
Oh,
that was the
yeah,
song. No. He was there, you know, and she slapped him, oh no, just like, you know, seeing a movie, you know.
I remember I'd work at Archie's and working for, what the heck was I getting? I worked about 70 hours a week for $15 a week. And on Saturday, I'd go to work about 11 in the morning, and then at 6 o'clock, I'd take off a little time, you know, an hour to eat. Because sometimes you're there till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But I used to go down the terrace, and you get a nice filet mignon
Oh,
for $1. Oh, that was
He
my
was
treat.
just unbelievable, yeah. Yeah. No, he wasn't working there then, though.
But he was bartending, he and Velmer were bartending there.
Yeah, but Fillmore worked a little long there.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But Art Marshall was, that somebody would go in there, they do on purpose, you know, they'd say, Art, you don't look too good. Are you sick or you don't feel too good? Right away, Art Marshall was sick, you had to go home.
Those machines in those days only took one coin at a time, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, not like today where they want that $20 bill. in
No,
there.
and you could see, you put a coin in there, it would go, you could see
Five,
Yeah.
five coins all the time.
You can see with a slug in there too.
Yeah, you could see the slugs, and that's, I kinda watch for that too, and then when you're back there and you're watching, they don't do it, but,
They had the big bear in there at that time.
yeah. And if you're during the week when nobody's back there, that's when the slugs used to go in the streetcar token.
Well, these were right outside, in the tavern.
In the back room.
No, with Artie's, they're along that wall where they put the bowling alley in.
Oh, maybe that's before my time.
That must be, see.
See, I was gone from 7 years old till, I was gone for 10 years up north. And I came
Marcus
back-
Corner?
Marcus Corner.
Yeah. We were running in that corner, we says, geez, what if Hank Belisle would be over there in that building, see? And we laughed. Then we got a ride, you were hitchhiking now. And we got a ride with an old couple, and they started talking French. And when we got through, they were taking us through Argyle, I guess, or else
Oh, yeah.
Thief River. And they said, they said in French, you bull that soul or something like that. And then one over whether would run away from home, see? And when it got through, I said, very merci beaucoup. There's a lot of French up there.
Yeah, there was. Argyle.
Yeah, that's why I didn't know you too well around here.
Yeah.
See, all the time that I was growing up, you were over there at Margaret's Corner.
Because I didn't come back here till 1938, 39.
Uh-huh. Huh. Yeah, well,
Question?
I also remember real more, okay.
The one thing you forgot was Grandma Mondor had a popcorn stand next to Archie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Billy Shay had it after that, because Diane used to work there, and I used to go help. We just waited for weekends so we could work the popcorn stand.
All the time Billy was in service, he sold, had Diane to run the popcorn stand for him, and he took all the money.
Going back to that popcorn machine, I bought that from Billy Shay. That's one of my other jobs.
Oh, did you?
I had it across the street here next to my computer.
Harold?
Yeah. You mentioned about 6 eating places down there on what's now Spring Street, down by the bank, where the old bank was.
Butcher, or grocery store.
Grocery
not
stores, okay. How did this little community support all of it?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it is, because we had LaGranger's and Parnell's Meat Market, and then we had CJ's and AJ Benas and a Mabel Paquin, and then we had the Jack Sprat store across the street here too. But heck had that. I worked there too. That's another job.
Population was only about 476 then too.
Yeah, the population.
When Bud Heck had the place next to our place, that little grocery store, he had that place that he was selling sugar to the bootleggers. And we were living at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you see a big truck come by our house in the back and unload the sugar. And that's Bud made money that selling that sugar. But he had the grocery store. He sold grocery store.
Were there a lot of cars in town at that time?
A lot of cars.
There's still horses.
There is cars. I'm not that old.
I'm thinking that they didn't travel very far because the roads were bad and they didn't have cars.
They all had cars.
I just want to know, when you had to hide the slot machines from the feds, did you ever keep one for
No,
yourself?
I never did. Because I left, I don't know what he did with those machines. That would have been something to keep, because they were all mills machines and.
Well, yeah.
What was the name of that head one of the feds?
The head one of the
The feds that come, around Somerset looking for stills. Now they had to have squealers on it.
Well, somebody turned
Yeah.
crazy about motorcycles, you know.
Yeah.
And they used to deliver milk with the old Venas store. In the
Yeah.
back there, they delivered milk with them. And Tom had the route then, you know, he'd deliver the milk,
I see.
bring back the empty bottles. And he used to tell me, he says, you wash all those bottles. And he says, I'll give you a ride on my motorcycle. Geez, I couldn't wash them fast enough. He'd give me a ride up to the bridge on County Road I there, up on
Yeah.
the bridge and back, that was it. The next day, again, he'd give me a little ride. I'd wash the milk bottles.
We went for a ride with him, and Donald and a whole bunch of guys, you know. And they went around, you swear you ain't gonna tell. See, they didn't want to tell AJ, you know. And they come up to me and they go, what, tell what? He said, well, he went 50 miles an hour. And that was, anybody would go 50 on those roads, they figured it was crazy, you know? But he had gone 50 miles an hour.
I was brought up that Velmer was quite a fighter. Did you,
Who?
your brother Vel?
Belmore.
He wasn't as scared when he was drinking.
He was over,
Clarence, the same thing.
who?
Clarence and Valmore.
Belmore, Clarence. But Clarence didn't fight much compared to Belmore.
Well, Clarence would fight, and Valmore always said when Clarence would get in a fight, it was one punch. He says he had a punch, and he says he'd just throw that punch and knock the guy out.
Shoot?
Was there any long-term family feuds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad was a carpenter, and Albert Germain and George Paquin, the three local carpenters we had here in Somerset. But my dad was working at the LaGranger's store, and it was on a Saturday, and he told Oscar, he says, I have to quit early tonight. And Oscar says, well, okay, but he says, what for? He says, tonight we fight the Hardviews.
I heard the Harviews were one mean bunch of boys. How many boys were in that family? It was like 12, wasn't it? It was a big.
I don't know, but Dave was oldest
Richie
one.
Boyer was a policeman here. Was there any other policeman before him?
Sam Francis.
Sam Francis?
My friend.
And
My dad was deputy.
then there was a Rivard, had one arm.
Sam
Oh, yeah, that
Francis
guy,
was
yeah.
married
Yeah.
to my grandmother. That one?
This Rivard was not married.
No, Sam Francis.
St. Francis, he's related somewhere.
Yeah, married my grandma, her second wedding.
Well, that,
Then we're related.
Isn't everybody in Somerset?
Yeah, he was they were my first cousins.
All right, we're going to end it there then. Thanks everybody for coming.
When I worked at for Dave at the Terrace, every once in a while we'd get a phone call. We're gonna check your place tonight, see? So they'd take the slot machine and they'd bring it in the kitchen, because I worked in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And they'd bring them in the kitchen, and the cops or whatever they were there from the Hudson come in and look around, and in there. And here was big, what's his name there? Archie yelling. The guy over there. And he was in there everything, but he had a big room where empty, because everything else was out, and that's where he used to spray cards. Then I used to park cars, and Cedric Adams, you say,
Yeah.
he used to come there all the time. But whenever he spoke on the radio, it was everybody would come to Somerset. Whenever he spoke, I kept part of the parking lot is big there too. And they would go all the way down to the dump, where the dump was, where Angel lived. There. So I got in with a lot of that stuff there then.
Yeah.
And Father Baudette, he was over at the church there, and he hired me as a bidou. There was a little used to work there. I think he died or something. But then I went over and worked as a bidou of the church there. And so Dave, when they were floating down the river, they hadn't floated yet. But there's a hole behind the terrace was full of suckers. And we couldn't, it was just so, the whole city, river was shallow except those holes. And it was just full of suckers. So Willard, Belisle and I would float over with the inner tubes, and then we'd scare out the suckers and spare them. And Dave watched us one day, and he said, how far can you go with those tubes? I said, go all the way down to Mason's if you want to. And that's how the tubes started. He went to the cities, and he come back, and he had about 500 tubes that he come with. And along the side of the terrace, we built the place where they put the tubes in. And then we'd take the car, go down and pick the guys up. Like you went there, then they took your car, or I did, and I took it over. I remember there was a cord. Remember the cords going?
Yeah.
They got with a cord, and I could find the reverse. And I was up against it there, trying to find the reverse on that cord. So I finally found it anyway.
What year was that?
That would be, let's see, I was born 30. Well, before I was in high school. So that would be, I graduated in 38, up 36, 38.
Life magazine came down there.
Yeah, I was there.
That was 1941, I think,
Was
wasn't
it
it?
41?
I think so, somewhere in there.
Yeah, and Life magazine, I was there when they come.
Yeah.
If you look at that picture, you'll see me there on that picture. Because when Dave found out we could float all the way down, then he started floating on the river.
Yeah.
And then they started at, how do you call it, Raleigh's up there. And
The terrace used to be quite a spot there one time.
oh boy, was it ever.
That was a nightclub, and Mary Lou was a blues singer.
Yeah.
She sang.
Butcher, do you want to remember my Butcher?
Who?
Butcher? he was an old man, he and his wife were there, you know, and she says a good man is hard to find
Oh,
out of the
yeah,
song. He was there on, and she slapped me, oh no, just like seeing a movie, you know.
I remember I'd work at Archie's and working for, what the heck was I getting? I worked about 70 hours a week for $15 a week. And on Saturday, I'd go to work about 11 in the morning, and then at 6 o'clock, I'd take off a little time, you know, an hour to eat. Because just sometimes you're there till 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
But I used to go down the terrace, and you get a nice filet mignon for $1. Oh, that was
He
my
was
treat.
just unbelievable, yeah. Belmore, your brothers, were from the
Belmore
partner.
was,
Huh?
Belmore was bartender there?
Yeah, and Willard and I, he hired Willard and I to watch the slot machines. Well, see, because you could see about 5 of them, 5 nines across there, and he'd come in and he'd put it in, and one of the uncles, I
Art
guess.
Marset, you remember him?
Huh?
Art Marset?
Oh, Art Morset.
Art Marset.
No, he wasn't working there then, though.
Well, he was bartending there. He and Belmore were bartending there.
Yeah, but Belmore worked a little long there.
Well, yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But Art Marset was, that somebody would go in there, and they do on purpose, you know. They'd say, Art, you don't look too good. Are you sick, or you don't feel too good? Right away, Art Marset was sick, you had to go home.
Those machines in those days only took one coin at a time, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, not like today where they want that $20 bill. in
No,
there.
and you could see, you put a coin in there, it would go. You could see
Five,
Yeah.
five coins all the
You
time.
can see with a slug in there too.
Belmore.
Yeah, you could see the slugs, and that's, I kind of watch for that too. And then when you're back there and you're watching, they don't do it. But,
They had the big bear in there at that time.
yeah, and if you're during the week when nobody's back there, that's when the slugs used to go in the streetcar token.
Well, these were right outside, in the tavern.
In the back room.
No, with Artie's, they're along that wall where they put the bowling alley in.
Oh, maybe that's even before my time.
That must be, see.
See, I was gone from 7 years old till, I was gone for 10 years up north. And I came
Marcus
back-
Corner?
Marcus Corner.
Yeah. We were running in that corner, we says, geez, what if Hank Belisle would be over there in that building, see? And we laughed. Then we got a ride, you were hitchhiking now. And we got a ride with an old couple, and they started talking French. And when we got through, they were taking us to Argyle, I guess, or else
Oh, yeah.
East River. And they says, you know, they said in French, you bull that soul or something like that. And then one over whether would run away from home, see? And when it got through, I said, very merci beaucoup. There's a lot of French up there.
Yeah, there was. Argyle.
Yeah, that's why I didn't know you too well around here.
Yeah.
See, all the time that I was growing up, you were over there at Margaret's Corner.
Because I didn't come back here till 1938, 39.
Uh-huh. Huh.
And-
Yeah, well,
Question?
I always remember Rivard. Oh, good.
The one thing you forgot was Grandma Mondor had a popcorn stand next to Archie.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And then Billy Shay had it after that, because Diane used to work there, and I used to go help. We just waited for weekends so we could work the popcorn stand.
All the time Billy was in service, he sold, had Diane to run the popcorn stand for him. And he took all the money.
Going back to that popcorn machine, I bought that from Billy Shay. That's one of my other jobs.
Oh, did you?
I had it across the street here at the, next to my computer.
Belmore one time, someone was in there and they were swearing, and he said, Jesus Christ, some wearers lazy in boots. He says that's a sergeant himself.
Harold?
Yeah. You mentioned about 6 eating places down there on what's now Spring Street, down by the bank, where the old bank was.
Butcher, or grocery store. not
Grocery
eating.
stores, okay. How did this little community support all of that?
Well, That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it is, because we had LaGranger's and Parnell's Meat Market, and then we had CJ's and AJ Benas and a Mabel Paquin. And then we had the Jack Sprat store across the street here too. But heck had that. I worked there too. That's another job.
The population was only about 476 then too.
Yeah, the population.
When Bud Heck had the place next to our place, that little grocery store, he had that place that he was selling sugar to the bootleggers. And we were living at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, you see a big truck come by our house in the back and unload the sugar. And that's Bud made money that selling that sugar. But he had the grocery store. He sold grocery store.
Were there a lot of cars in town at that time?
A lot of cars.
We still have horses.
There is cars. I'm not that old.
I'm thinking that they didn't travel very far because the roads were bad and they didn't have cars.
They all had cars.
I just want to know, when you had to hide the slot machines from the feds, did you ever keep one for
No,
yourself?
I never did. Because I left, I don't know what he did with those machines. That would have been something to keep, because they were all mills machines and.
Well, yeah.
What was the name of that head one of the feds?
The head one of the
The feds that come, around Somerset looking for stills. Now they had to have squealer or something.
Well, somebody turned it.
Yeah, because where Armin had his, you never found out on top there, trying to chase rabbits out. And the only way you get into it was the river. And here, first thing I go there, here was a still underneath there where we were chasing the rabbits.
Yeah. There was a little payoff in those days too, you know, when you had the machines.
Huh?
There was a little payoff.
Oh yes, they had to pay off.
Had to,
Yeah, they had to pay off the
I
trade.
had 2 women come down from Minneapolis about twice a month. And it was on usually during the week, and they came down and they played the machines. Then they'd leave. And a couple of weeks later, they'd come down again and play. And she told me that, she says, the money I'm losing here, she says, that's my husband give me for buying groceries. And then she left. That's after quite a while, you know, that they've been coming down. So she left, and they stopped at Phil Henney's, and they wanted to know how to get a hold of the sheriff. So Joe Henney was a good friend of mine. I knew him quite well. So he called me up, and he says, "There's women here that are thinking about calling the sheriff in Hudson, telling about the machines." So that's when I had the place where Gerald's Cafe used to be.
Oh, I see.
I used to run machines there too, before I went to the Palms. So then I get a call and, saying that these women turned me in, you know, that they were machines. So we tore down those machines again and hit them. And then from there, that's when we moved to the Palms.
I'll be there.
But they,
Yeah, they're paying off. You take the rendezvous. One time someone broke in there and took all the machines out. And Willard and I were out, you know, we used to go out in the morning to see where there's somebody lost a dime somewhere or something. And we went behind Vanessa's warehouse there, and there was the machines, but they didn't know enough to take it too well. They just broke the jackpot. But there was dimes all over, and Willard and I just filled up our pockets as much as we could. Then we went to the rendezvous and told them, hey, your machines are over there.
Any other questions?
I tried to break down in Vanessa's one time, break in, and so they had a silent alarm. And so Uncle Delore, he goes in the back to the store in Honeycull, and then Tom, he takes the front, and I don't know where Leon went, but anyway, Andrew, it was Andrew that was living there, in that little place next to the store. And they all come out at the same time, they all had the Honeycull. And Tom turned around and saw the guy go by, run like everything behind the hardware. So he shot at him 3 times, but he never hit him, see.
Tom Vanat?
Huh?
Tom Vanat, you say? Or?
Yeah. And then your mother found the the revolver that the guy had used. The store was where they were at the tavern there, or the eating place in town, La Liberty, and all. Well, there was a space between the door and the hardware. And she was going to work somewhere, and she saw it laying out there inside that crack there. And she got sort of a Roy to come over and pick it up for her. And then Belmore, then Russell kept it, see. And then Belmore heard about it, and he saw Russell then. He's been him give up the revolver. I bet you didn't know that, did you, Gerald?
Tom Benassi had crazy about motorcycles, you know.
Yeah.
And they used to deliver milk with the old Benas store.
Yeah.
In the back there, they delivered milk with them. And Tom was had the route, and you know, he'd deliver the milk,
I see.
bring back the empty bottles. And he used to tell me, he says, you wash all those bottles. And he says, I'll give you a ride on my motorcycle. Geez, I couldn't wash them fast enough. He'd give me a ride up to the bridge on County Road I there, up on the bridge and back, that was it. The next day, again, he'd give me a little ride. I'd wash the milk bottles.
We went for a ride with him, and Donald and a whole bunch of guys, you know. And they went around, you swear you ain't gonna tell. See, they didn't want to tell AJ, you know. And they come up to me and they go, what, tell what? He said, well, he went 50 miles an hour. And that was, anybody would go 50 on those roads, they figured it was crazy, you know? But he had gone 50 miles an hour.
I was brought up that Velmer was quite a fighter. Did you?
Who?
Your brother Vel?
Belmore.
He wasn't scared when he was drinking.
He was over.
Clarence, the same thing.
Who?
Clarence and Belmore.
Belmore, Clarence. But Clarence didn't fight much compared to Belmore.
Well, Clarence would fight, and Belmore always said when Clarence would get in the fight, it was one punch. He says he had a punch, and he says he'd just throw that punch and knock the guy out.
I saw Belmore, they were when I was at the hall, you know, where he said he was.
Well, he and Jack Raleigh, yeah.
And they had barrels. They said, you're pretty crude, so us guys, they had barrels, and the guy couldn't get it away. And you'd hit the other guy, they put the barrels together. Then he'd hit the other one. And Belmore was always sitting in there, because he hit hard, Belmore. And he was over at River's Edge, and the guy from there should come up there and says, I'll lick anybody from Somerset or Stillwater. And Belmore was, you're going to have to show me, you know, how he gets so drunk, you know. And he got in a hell of a fight with that guy, because he had to keep Somerset up there, you know. And the guy got the best of Belmore, but Belmore saw him 2 weeks later over there at Ben's had a place across the road, you know, was the road right over there. And Belmore got in the fight with him then, and boy, did they ever lick him, because Belmore was sober then, you know. And he could fight. Oh, jeez, that Belmore.
Well, he and Steve Martell used to wrestle on Jack Raleigh's card.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when they're wrestling. Above Florence Hall, they used to have wrestling matches up there.
Yeah.
Jack Raleigh had the little cafe over where Gerald had.
Oh, he did? Yeah, I remember that too. Because that's where they had that big gang fight around the Archies, you know? And who was married? Grace or one of those. It was Harry's wife. He says, don't you go down there, you got your new shirt you just bought you. See? He said, we'll fight. And he was there 1 minute, I guess. And he was fighting like everybody. That's where Clarence got hit. You know, that guy, he was my boss over in St. Paul. He says, I got a hell of a licking in Somerset. I said, so what happened? He says, he told me, he said, everybody's fighting, but Clarence was working for Fagnan, see? And they were like, you know, and Ed Fagnan was fighting that guy. But that guy was out pushing that Fagnan out. So Belmore says, geez, my boss, I ain't gonna let him go. So he hits that guy, see, as he went by him, the guy was one hit. And he went across the road that way. Belmore, Clarence, knocked him dead your Nickens.
But my dad was working at the LaGranger's store, and it was on a Saturday, and he told Oscar, he says, I have to quit early tonight. And Oscar says, well, okay, but he says, what for? He says, tonight we fight the Harviews.
Yeah, I heard the Harviews were one mean bunch of boys. How many boys were in that family? It was like 12, wasn't it? It was a big
I don't know, when Dave was oldest one, or was there one older than Dave? But Dave wouldn't fight much.
No,
But Clarence and Clarence and what's his name? Leonard, he disappeared in the cities. He got thrown in the lake there and he couldn't swim. Belmore took me, I mean not Belmore. Clarence, the other one above Clarence there. That was the other one was sissy fight, but between them two, they took me to help me over the railings on the bridge. You know, I was coming back, I was talking with the girl, I thought I was smart, you know, and so on. I was acting tough. Boy, I started crying, holy Moses, you're not going. I didn't cry, I didn't throw, I was tough after that.
Frenchy Poirier was a policeman here. Was there any other policeman before him?
Sam Francis.
Sam Francis.
My friend,
And
my dad was deputy.
and there was a Rivard, had one arm.
Sam
Oh, yeah,
Francis
that guy,
was
yeah.
married to my grandmother. That one?
This Rivard was not married.
No, Sam Francis.
St. Francis, he's related somewhere.
Yeah, married my grandma, her second wedding.
Well, that,
Then we're related.
Isn't everybody in Somerset?
Yeah, he was they were my first cousins. Armin now, he was taken for a ride, you know. I'll say something else about Armin. But anyway, he was taken for a ride, and then that's when San Francis was caught. And they stopped in front of our house and they got around. They got the guys over at Osceola. See where the bridge of the train goes on? Well, at that bridge, they pulled up the bridge, and see the guy told me all about it. That was the prison. See, I worked at the prison, and he was a prisoner. See, and he told me all about it. I went to him, you know, and he talked about Somerset. He knew Archie and everybody, you know. And he knew who owned the terrace and who was boss. And I said, did you know Armin Blas? He said, no, I didn't, and he walked away. He was a swamper in a bedroom of ours. He had a big bedroom there. And took about 3 weeks to come back down. I said, why do you get so huffed up about Somerset? He said, what do you ask for? I said, because I'm from Somerset. And he says, then he started telling me about different guys in Somerset. And I says, then here's the guy that was in the car when they went or kidnapped Armin. And they were going to take him over to Darren and shoot him and bury him. And he got the terrace, he and his brother-in-law swam the river there at Osceola. And the other two went in the town areas and they got caught right away. But the other two got over. And you remember who Lloyd Hardy shot the guy in the hand at the window? He showed the guy. Remember Lloyd was watching the thing that night there. And so he said it was his brother that got shot. He took some, how do you call it, up north. I don't know if it was over at Marcus Quarter, but that area. And says, so Archie was paying him. And he went over, I don't know where he got a deal, I guess, or out of the safe. And the guy says, gee, we better go back there and take care of that place, you know. And the guy says, well, hell, why? Archie's always been good to us. He's a good fellow, you know. And I'll be darned if the guy don't go by himself over there. And he reached over to unlock the door, that side door. And Lloyd put the gun right up to his, how do you call it, and shot him in the hand. See? And that was his brother-in-law. And he got a call the next day from his sister, I guess, yeah, that he got shot over there in Somerset. Then Harry Dowles, he shot that guy by our place, you know, and he was over to Lynn's, and he kept running. He said, how do you go from Archie? See, Archie's had a big, like a Ford car horn on the car, as a burglar alarm. And when one of theirs broke in, the thing would go off, see? And went off, and everybody down went down there. And there was that guy, and he'd good at Lynn's corner terrace there. and he'd shoot, and he'd back, and then he'd load up, and then he'd shoot, you know. And Harry figured just the right time, because Harry told me this himself. And every time he'd go in to load his gun, Harry would get a little closer. And he got right into the Lynn's place, and a little caboose there, you know, before he got in the door. And when the guy shot, then he went over, Harry went right around the corner, put the gun that shot. And the parts of the gun and everything went way over the bar house. And Grandma was pretty old, she couldn't even turn around. So Harold was watching it through that window. And there was BBs all over, and the big sign that was in front there, there was BBs all over where Harold was looking through the window. Where that must have been Harry's gun, because it was way across the street. But that guy got killed. I remember that.